Welcome to the Timeless Marketing Podcast with Brian Kurtz, your connection to insights from some of the top direct response marketing minds on the planet.
Hey, it's Brian Kurtz here, host of the Timeless Marketing Podcast. Today's episode is a clip from one of the 2-hour calls inside Titan's Accelerator, my private mentorship program for direct response marketers. Before we get to that, I have one question for you. Do you have a marketing insurance policy? If you don't, you need one. And that's why I created Titan's Accelerator, which is one of the most giving communities and serves as the de facto board of advisors and marketing insurance policy for over 250 of the best and brightest direct response marketers, copywriters, media buyers, marketing agencies, senior executives, anyone in direct response marketing who is committed to growing and scaling their business. The bottom line, you don't have to grow your business alone. And you don't need to spend tens of thousands of dollars either. Titan's Accelerator is 1/10 of the price of most groups of its kind. I know because I hosted a group that was over $20,000 a year. If you want to see how Titan's Accelerator can help you grow and scale your specific business, go to briankurtz.net/help. That's BrianKurtz.net/help. And with a private membership, you'll receive access to the full presentation from today's episode, along with the Q&A and discussion that followed. As an added bonus, you'll receive access to a vault filled with many more private calls just like this one. Again, if you want to see if Titan's Accelerator is a fit for you with no obligation, go to briankurtz.net/help. That's BrianKurtz.net/help. And feel free to email me directly. I respond to every email with questions about this episode or just to say hi at brian@briankurtz.net. Now on to today's episode. This is a good segue into Caleb O'Dowd and Robert Skrob, and Robert made sure to tell me that Caleb gets top billing, so I just did that. But Robert is one of my heroes, so he's going to get billing whether he likes it or not. Robert and Caleb, I mentioned in the preview for this, he was a student of Gary Halbert's. That's not his claim to fame, but it certainly puts him on my map more than most copywriters and most people talking about what his new book talks about. He's also became an expert in newspaper space in addition to direct mail, but he did newspaper space. He did phone telemarketing. So Caleb is a samurai multi-channel marketer with his roots in direct mail because he was mentored by Gary Halbert. And now, having been being mentored by Robert Skrob, who in Caleb's new book, Monetization, I'm going to read the acknowledgement. It's short and sweet. Acknowledgement. I'd like to give a special thanks to the greatest consultant in direct marketing, Robert Skrob. Thanks for believing in what I have to offer and your steadfast commitment to getting Monetization published. Everybody who benefits from this book has you to thank for it. All right, Robert, I'm done with you now. But I needed to just, you are a titan of the highest order in my book. And I just wanted everybody to make sure that we're dealing with royalty here. And Caleb is royalty too, as is Justin. But
I'm just glad you read the book so far.
Yeah, I only read the acknowledgement and a couple of chapters. I was busy the last 3 months, so.
Of course. Well, congratulations, father of the bride.
Thank you. So Caleb, you're on, aren't you? Where are you?
I hope you guys can hear me. Yeah.
Yeah, and we can see you too. Wow, you're so clean cut, man.
I'm a little balder than the last time we spoke, I think.
Yeah, you are, but I'm sure you're still just as smart.
Well, yeah, I hope so. Yeah. Yeah. How you doing, Brian?
I'm good, Caleb. Really good to see you. Caleb and Robert were both members of Titan's Mastermind and both great friends, colleagues, just I'm so pleased that Robert suggested that you come on, speak to this group. This is a group of just, incredible entrepreneurs, copywriters, marketers. They're going to love what you guys are going to talk about today. I'll kick it off with, I want to leading in from Justin, because he just finished, giving us more than a primer on direct mail. He gave us a master class course on it. But I want to talk about your roots, Caleb. Not so much. I already shared with this group on one of our monthly USBs that we send out the interview I did with you at Titans Mastermind when you talked about what was it like to work with Gary Halbert. So, they can watch that and hear about, him coming to the door in his underwear and telling you to go to the supermarket and get his clothes dry cleaned in exchange for you paying him a ton of money to teach you copywriting. So those stories were great, but that's not what we're going to talk about today. But, with your background in direct mail, and then you became the guy in newspaper, you were like the guy teaching newspaper space advertising for a while and phone telemarketing. Talk about how that prepared you for your new book. And I want to just plug the book. It's called Monetization, How to Optimize Sales Funnels and Skyrocket Back-End Profits. Does not sound like a guy who learned direct mail from Gary Halbert. So talk about the transition from that to this and how you got there. And if Robert wants to chime in at any time, he can, and he'll probably have his own questions as well. But let's start there, Caleb. How did you get here from there?
Yeah. All right. Well, hello, everybody. And, thanks for the opportunity to talk with you all here today. So, yeah.
And Caleb is from Brooklyn, by the way, based on his accent. You would have known that, but
Yeah. Well, I'm from Ireland. Yeah. So, at 19, I started learning marketing. I got the opportunity to move from my hometown in Ireland all the way to Miami Beach to learn from Gary Halbert. He quickly got me into direct mail. We went from, zero, we had to like $1 million business in our first year. We went on to be one of the largest mailers in the health supplement industry for many years running there. How did I go from the mail to the internet? It was just a transition, I guess. It was just I learned direct response, core fundamental principles of direct response from Gary. He was big into newspaper advertising. He was big into direct mail. Those were kind of his two primary channels. So it was inevitable that I was going to get into those myself. But what I quickly learned was that the concepts, the principles, the thinking that Halbert had shared with me, it was applicable to almost anything that I was doing, So we went on to crush it in direct mail. We went on to crush it in the newspapers. We did loads and loads of magazine, a little bit of radio, and then we moved on to the internet. And the internet is where I feel like I had such an enormous competitive advantage online, because I, just like you guys are talking about, I was kind of, I was like the last of the Mohicans that made it over, from old world direct marketing at a high level, and kind of came online at a time, I think, where that kind of knowledge was dying out to a great extent. And to me, what I found was, it was basic, dull, kind of everyday stuff. But as I started to apply it on the internet, I started to have really explosive results that were kind of above and beyond what I saw perhaps my competitors getting. And, we went on to do a lot on the internet. We went on to do webinars at a very high level, VSL funnels at a very high level, did product launches. We did a lot of Facebook and YouTube advertising at a very high level. And all of the same kind of core fundamental principles and concepts, and pretty much, everything that I had learned from Halbert, all of this stuff just keeps getting translated into different channels, different mediums, different executions of marketing, and all the various different ways that we do it. And where did the book come from? The book kind of came from, I eventually started working with clients, and what I found was that so many marketers really just focused on creating the front end offer. They just kind of focused on whatever it may be, the webinar, the VSL, the sales letter of some kind. And they all ended up coming to me trying to figure out everything else. And what I quickly realized was that marketing had been so focused, modern internet marketing is so focused on getting the front end sale. They've so focused on acquisition that they had lost where the real money is, which is monetization. And everybody was coming to me looking to get their funnels fixed. They had AOV problems. They had great conversion rates, but they weren't able to scale. There was no profits in the business. They had no kind of upsell funnel that was intelligently put together. No idea of what back-end monetization was, how to really monetize, their customers and prospects. And the book kind of came from that. What I started to realize was, gosh, I really feel like I have this this kind of legacy of old world information that modern marketers don't really have. And the whole multi-channel marketing thing is really just based on a lot of my experience. Like Rob and I are always talking about this. And one of the kind of things that I see in modern marketing is there's so many marketers when you ask them what is multi-channel marketing, they talk about, oh yeah, that's when you acquire customers from Google and Facebook. They think of it in terms of like acquiring like multi-channel marketing is about having multiple traffic sources, when to me multi-channel marketing is really not about multiple traffic sources at all. It's about monetizing people across multiple channels, both online and offline. And that's kind of where the book came from. The book came from me needing to educate my own clients and on what it is that they need to do once that initial sale is kind of made, and from that point forward.
Yeah, I mean, and that that you're hooked up with Robert, who is the retention expert, the back end, the second and third order is more important than the first for lifetime value. All of that gets lost, and so now I know why you wrote the book and why why it was such a natural for you to do this. And the book is structured really well because it's there's he's got part 2 is fail-proof multi-channel marketing, and then part 3 is the ultimate multi-channel marketing funnel, and then it goes into things specific: no opt-in lead capture, pre-order form bump, retargeting ads. Some of them people in this group I know do. I do some of them even, but there's going to be stuff that you're not doing for sure, because it's comprehensive. It really is, Caleb. Congratulations on putting it together. Robert, do you have some questions for Caleb, or you want to move him in a different direction?
Oh, well, no, I would like to jump in and thank you very much for your compliments on the book. You'll probably, as Caleb and I were first talking about this project and thinking through the reason why, why on earth do we need another marketing book, and how can we contribute to this? Really thinking through what Caleb was talking about, it came to me that this is very much like the Ben Suarez book, 7 Steps to Freedom, where, in that book, of course, Ben is giving.
Did that include when he got out of jail also? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, how to get in and how to get out of jail.
Right. But he was an amazing marketer.
And this book, of course, was really promoted as like a business opportunity, and it is, but it's immense. And there is there's like how to borrow money from a bank, and and the process is something of the 1980s. And so talking with Caleb, it seemed like there was an opportunity to have this sort of kind of what Ben created, the net profit generation system, but bring this multi-channel funnel, bring that to the forefront and go through that. I want to thank Jack Turk, who is on our the today. Jack
Thank you,
went
Jack.
through I don't know how many hours, 50 hours, 60 hours of recordings that Caleb and I did, interviews, and somehow sorted that out into what you have here. But I think the kind of going through the book a moment, like you were saying, Brian, in the beginning, the real focus is kind of this number one problem that marketers are making in their approach. And really the fact is most of them focus too much on their ads and iterating the ads and not enough on having a complete funnel. The next section, this fail-proof multi-channel marketing, is really all about the core direct response fundamentals that they're really told in the context of how Caleb learned them from Gary Halbert and bringing them forward in terms of making sure that you have a big idea that because you could have all 20 profit centers in a funnel, but the things still not convert well because you don't have the right idea. You don't have a clear understanding of your customer base. You don't have a solid enough offer. And one of the things in speaking with Caleb is that he has worked with and trained more than 100 copywriters on his team. And so he's taken these people who believe that they are crackerjack copywriters and then had to mold them into direct response quality copywriters and understood what they don't understand and created exercises with them. And this book, one of the things that I think is absolutely brilliant, I've used it myself and with a number of clients, is something called the 1050s, which is a process of understanding your customer. And it's, a lot of times people are like, oh, this is a big waste of time. But I haven't worked with anybody who has done it that hasn't completely changed what they believed about their customers and finally understood how to do segments. I use it all the time with helping my clients understand how to do tiered pricing within their subscription businesses. And so this is just an absolute gold mine, and that's just one chapter.
Can you go a little deeper on that, just to give us a bit more of a taste?
So in the 1050s, there is a number of prompts. There are actually 10 different prompts in that exercise. And what you're doing is, for instance, identify the 50 reasons why your solution is better than all the others.
This sounds like this is out of breakthrough advertising too. This has a lot of similarities to what Gene Schwartz teaches too.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, there's no one better. I mean, breakthrough advertising was the foundational book that all of this stuff is built upon.
I know, but it sounds like Caleb and you really built on it even more.
Well, what I think was brilliant about Caleb's approach is he has a system. And that, I think breakthrough advertising was brilliant at identifying the end result that you're trying to go for.
Right.
And what Caleb has, really by beating his head against the wall, dealing with these copywriters who think they're smart and really aren't, is he's figured out how to devise exercises that they force them to be smart, whether they wanted to or not. And so by having 50, it's also similar to the Clayton Makepeace and even the Paris Lampropoulos exercise of creating 100 headlines. By the time you get to 30, you are now breaking new ground and having to force yourself to, instead of iterate your preconceived ideas, it's forcing you to come up with things that you never thought of. And then because of there's 10 different exercises that hit the same thing from completely different angles, you make connections that you never would have made before by going through. So the exercise is simple enough. It's, answer 50 reasons your solution is better. Identify 50 reasons to buy. Then there gives you some suggestions. but identify 50 reasons not to buy. And also gives you some examples that maybe, that some people get stuck in a rut around reasons not to buy. And this gives specific things that, like, hey, start in the 50s, go down these rabbit holes, so that it helps, kind of helps with those prompts.
Yeah, I'm thinking that this, hey, Chris, our next Breakthrough Advertising Bootcamp, we need, with Caleb's permission, of course, I'd like to incorporate some of the 1050s questions, because we have something that we make people go deep by saying, people, what they will tell you, what they won't tell you, what they can tell you. But I think this, we don't tell them to do 50. I'll tell you that. If they get to 10, it's a lot. So
yeah, and it's an exercise. The hardest part of creating like a brilliant sales message is knowing what to say and who to say it to and how to say it. Like one of the greatest things that I ever read, and I'm pretty sure it's in Breakthrough Advertising, it was Gene Schwartz saying, "I'm not really a great copywriter, but I'm one hell of an editor." And that always stood out to me as it was just genius.
Yeah.
Like the secret, like I used to watch Halbert. He would get a client and he would have 30 days to create the advertisement, and he would write it in the last 2 days. So what happened the other 28 days? The other 28 days, he was masterminding this. He was researching. He was, compiling all of the information in a manner that was very sophisticated that resulted in great copy. The problem with like modern copywriters is they skip that and they just sit down and start putting words on a page. And what ends up then is they end up with an advertisement that doesn't convert, because it's not the writing process that results in the sales. It's all of the research, the compilation, the research phase that results in the sales. But there is no systematic way that so many people have. There's the brilliant guys out there, the Bensavengas of the world. They have their system for doing that kind of stuff, for doing the research. And Bensavenga says the game is won in research, but no one has a system. No one has a strategy. So what this is it is a systematic way to do your research, because the exercise forces you to go and do stuff that you would never think of doing yourself, but it's in a very guided manner. It's not, I remember Halbert used to play a joke on me. He would just say, "Hey, listen, go and research that prospect for me." And, I would just wander off into the woods of information and would come back and embarrass myself. Whereas he would go and look for very specific things, get very specific answers that facilitated the creation of brilliant copy. And that's what this is also. This is a very guided strategy for creating elite level breakthrough advertising. So
yeah, what you've done is brilliant, because it's not, we can't all be Gary Bensavenga, we can't all be Gene Schwartz, but we can be better at what we do. And the idea of putting it into a system of questions that you can follow and make it almost like a checklist, but you need to come from your gut too. I mean, you got to be willing to go deep into your customers. And the idea of research, I mean, Kim Krause-Schwam is huge on that. She has a product called Research Beast, and it's all about the research comes first before you Gene used to tell me, when I gave him a book to write a package for, his first question was, "What's not in the book?" Like forcing me to think about, or our editors to think about, what more could we get for him to write about. That's the tip of the iceberg, based on the fact that you're going with 50 prompts almost in different categories. I mean, I'm bummed that I didn't read that part of the book yet. I'm going to that part first when I go back to the book. But this sounds just perfect for anybody who's not a copywriter, who's not, a world-class marketer, who wants to have successful promotions and successful sales letters.
And I think as well that like one of the things that Rob pointed out there as well is like there's there's a self-grading in the exercise. If, as Rob said, like it's easy to create 20 answers.
Right.
It's increasingly difficult to create 25, 30, 35, 40. And the guys that get to 50, like the gap between what you can create and the remaining, like numbers, like if you can get as far as 30, but you can't get as far as 50, that's your gap. That's the difference between where you are and greatness.
Exactly.
So it's a very self-measuring, it's a self kind of, it puts you in your place, and it highlights the gap between where you are and where you need to be. And
it sounds like it can be taught through what you have in the book, which is fantastic.
Thanks for listening to the Timeless Marketing Podcast with Brian Kurtz. Visit briankurtz.net and click podcast at the top of the page for a full transcript and show notes. If you are interested in working with Brian personally inside of Titans Accelerator, go to briankurtz.net/help to see how Titans can help you grow and scale your business. That's briankurtz.net/help.